What's going on from Bulls Nation? Welcome in to CHGO Bulls Podcast, coming to you live from our studios here in West Loop, downtown Chicago. I'm Pack Bulls _Pack, joined by Big Dave, BAM, BAWL Sports, Will to go Gottlieb, Will _Gottlieb.
What Joey is with us today, man?
Yeah, I can't say it.
What Joey is with us?
I misheard Dave a second ago and thought he said something really mean to Joey.
Because that's what I always do. You know
got
me.
Fat Joe in the building.
You know, yes, the winner. Fat Joe, what up?
1 minute in, we're off the rails already.
Joey Crack, what's good?
Young Spath is all the control. That Joey Spath. Happy Wednesday, everybody. It is a scorcher out there in Chicago today. Big Dave, your child is working overtime.
Always here for me and for all of us when you need it. Will needed the blast. I got him some. You call on him, man, she'll get you some too, man.
Yeah, my goodness.
Get you a little bit. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, not bad.
Shout out USA men's basketball team just got a W in group play against South Sudan, but also shout out to South Sudan. Not quite as much of a nail biter as that exhibition game when South Sudan, USA needed a huge comeback. Yeah. 103-86 was the final. Bulls legend Carlik Jones doing his thing. Shout out Luol Deng for basically just funding the entire program over there for South Sudan. But yeah, USA get another dub. On today's show, we're going to talk about the anonymous NBA execs poll that came out around Summer League when everybody was gathered in Vegas, asking certain NBA execs who they thought had solid off seasons, who didn't, best moves, worst moves, surprising moves. And spoiler alert, the Bulls did not come off great in this anonymous poll. But before we get to that, let's start with a happy thing.
Okay.
Ayo Dosunmu, our guy.
Yes.
Ayo is our guy.
Yes.
Has been doing a lot of solid work here in the community in Chicago, especially Morgan Park neighborhood, his stomping grounds. And he had one of his block parties. They're now becoming an annual thing. I believe it was the third annual block party at Ada Sawyer Garrett Park in Morgan Park last Saturday. Part of his community outreach, basketball clinics, volunteer work, bringing kids together through the sport of basketball, much like my guy Joakim Noah does. And he got a great write-up about this in Forbes. Matt Issa was the journalist who covered it. And I always just appreciate, especially when it's a Bulls player, of course, when these athletes who are taking time out of their off-season months, when it essentially is like, okay, work, train, rehab if you had any kind of lingering injuries at the end of the season, but it is their time, and they deserve that off time. Spending some of that off time to give back to the community, especially when you are a Chicago guy like Ayo is, just always makes your heart feel good.
Yeah, man. It not only says a lot about him, it says a lot about his parents, it says a lot about his family, it says a lot about his love for the city of Chicago, because it's the most Chicago thing you could kind of do is give back, especially when you talk about the love that you have for the city. And I love telling people I'm from Chicago, you know what I mean, and all these things, but all of that stuff kind of comes, with responsibilities. At least that's how I kind of look at it. So whether people know what you're doing or not, as far as giving back, I'm not a person who puts stuff out there about what I do. I just do it. So whether you're putting it out there and people know it or not, giving back is very, very important in Chicago. Of course, anywhere it is, but saying you're from Chicago gives you another more sense of pride when you know you're doing things like that. Ayo, I love the quotes that I was just reading in here because all I kept saying was, yeah, that's exactly the person that we know. Mm-hmm. That's exactly the parents that we met. Mm-hmm. Like all this stuff makes 100% sense. When he talked about motivation, in there reminded me of my own, because that's how my family was. They're very motivating, and telling me, to be who you are. You know what I'm saying? Don't care about nothing nobody's saying. You're not better than anybody. Nobody's better than you. Like, those kind of things were drilled into my head as a child. And to find out when I grew up, like, every kid wasn't getting stuff like that. Like my dad used to always say, like, y'all don't understand. Y'all different. You're raised a little differently. What do you mean? Everybody's got both their parents who encourage them to do things for them all the time. You're crazy, Dad. Nah, he's dead on. And it makes me think of that when he does things like that, because these kids need these kind of things, these kind of programs, and especially from somebody who is a Chicago Bull. It still means something to be a Chicago Bull in Chicago, and especially when you're from Chicago. And Ayo understands it, and he grasps it, and he holds on tight to it, and he just gives back so much, man. And I believe, third annual?
Yeah.
I believe this is. So you can expect to see more of this, and hopefully it gets bigger and bigger, and more people start coming out, whether they're helping behind the scenes or in front.
Yeah, and I think, like, we kind of poke fun at the idea that, like, the Bulls always kind of go after guys from Chicago or Illinois or whatever. But, like, I do think there's something to be said for the community elements of that. And I was a great example of that here, where, like, he knows and is a part of and has always been a part of the Chicago area community. And so him being able to be in the position that he's in, creating, like, opportunities, meet and greets, like, donations, whatever it turns out to be, for him to be able to do that, like, I think it just adds a little bit more weight because he's from here and he knows it. So I do think, in that way, there's, like, some positive value that can come from bringing guys who are from the area back home, because they know the importance of doing that stuff. And I think that's why even, like, Javon Carter showing up, like, it's another great example of that. And I think it's also why you see, like, Javonte Green playing in the, I think it's like the Chi-Town League. Like, people from Chicago, fans of the Bulls, like, they really identify with that because it shows his commitment and his love for the city. Sure. And, like, obviously Chicagoans are very proud in that way. So, I think it's great. And it is just, I think it's a responsibility for people in his position, but he clearly, like, takes a lot out of it for himself and just, like, gets fulfillment from it. So it's really great to see that cycle being kind of, that continuing on.
Yeah, continuing on, moving. And we saw, you mentioned Javon Carter, like, we saw it when we interviewed him.
Bulls Fest last summer.
Correct. We saw him right in front of us. Where there was that bus with the hoop on it, and he was just out there schooling kids, telling them what to do when it wasn't a camp for him. He showed up to talk to us.
Right, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And he still took time out to do those kind of things. So, yeah, having guys that are from here, that play here, understanding that responsibility is huge, and Ayo is definitely one of them.
And, we were talking about hopefully it continues to grow as far as scope in the coming years, assuming Ayo continues to do this every year. And certainly, hopefully, while he remains a Chicago Bull, and even if he, at some point in his career, moves on and plays for a different team in a different city, still continues this. There were 150 kids in attendance at this past weekend in Morgan Park. You mentioned his some of the thoughts that Ayo had about his family in there, Dave. And, we've been lucky to get to meet and spend some time with both of his parents from back in last season when he was coming by and hanging out with us occasionally. And Ayo said in that Forbes write-up, quote, "I was fortunate growing up because I have a family that encouraged, motivated, and helped me make my dreams of playing basketball at the highest level of reality. I believe exposing kids to events like this with positive opportunities and people they might not have in their lives regularly will hopefully spark their interest to continue seeking out those experiences." And much in the same light and goals as some of the things that Joakim is doing with One City, what he was doing back in his playing days with the Rock Your Drop campaign. It's not just about community outreach and the sake of getting kids together and playing some pickup basketball in a park and having fun. There is a very clearly stated goal of steering kids towards basketball and away from violence.
Yes.
And we know that Chicago as a city, as a large city, has its problems. Sometimes I think they get overblown on the national media landscape, but those problems do exist. So for a hometown person like Ayo to do something like this, especially knowing that he has a personal experience of his own from his childhood,
correct,
when he and his family and his inner circle were affected by violence in Chicago.
No, that's very well said. And knowing that he's been affected by that, and let it inspire him and not discourage him. You know what I'm saying? Just wants to keep his boy Darius' name alive, and just keep doing it in his name is awesome. I still remember when he got the tattoo, and Will was the only person I heard ask about that tattoo. And, just hearing him break that down, you know what I mean, about what that meant to him was honestly the first real time Ayo kind of let you in as far as like talking outside to the media. You know what I mean? Like that, at least that's how I felt, you know what I mean, about it. And I thought it was such a cool thing to hear and to know what fuels him, what drives him, not just on the court, but in life. He just wants to do something right and continue to, move these kind of things forward. And you need more of that here in this city, man. You need more. And you're right, man. Of course, yeah, it gets overblown on a huge landscape. It gets overblown. But when it's affecting you personally, and then you're still out there doing something about it to make sure nobody else can not feel whatever he's feeling, you know what I mean? Or whatever the family felt when that happened. I mean, you just have to give him, all the love and kudos in the world and whatever help you can, because that's just an amazing thing to do. Because you're right, it's bigger than basketball, man. It's getting them away from certain aspects and certain things in their life that they shouldn't be around, at least for as long of a time period as he can.
Yeah, and I just think, like, you mentioned, like, doing this for his friend who passed away. Like, I think there's an added element to it when you're from that place. Yeah. And I think he's able to be a good example and set an example of what, like, the next group of people who do make it to the NBA or who do get into a position where they are able to help people and give back in some capacity. Like, it's good leadership. It's being a good role model. And like I said, I think that matters more coming from people that and that you can identify with. Yes,
absolutely right. Seeing yourself.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And not just in skin color and in hair or whatever, or in skill, but seeing yourself in experience.
For me, it's more skill. Like,
we're
of course very simpatico on the basketball court.
Of course. The shot is out of control. I keep trying to tell people this. but knowing you can see him and vibe with the experience, you know what I mean, that he went through. The fact that he lost someone, young, that was super close to him.
Yeah.
A lot of people can relate to that. And sadly, a lot of kids can relate to that kind of thing. And just him out there doing it, man. It just makes you proud. Makes you even prouder to be like, yeah, I'm from Chicago, bro. You know what I'm saying? I got guys like this with me. It's beautiful.
Derek, go ahead, Will.
I was just gonna say, like, the work ethic. Like, if there's one thing that I think has stood out to me getting to know out of the past couple of years, and obviously for the Chicago fan base, knowing him now for the past few seasons, like, this dude works so hard. Yeah, and so setting that example, whether it's like charity or philanthropy or whatever it is, but like also just being an example. And I think his work ethic should be really inspiring to a lot of kids, whether it's for basketball or for anything, just to be able to, continue to develop a work ethic like that. Ayo's a fantastic role model in that way.
Really is, man.
Derek in the comments saying, I'm a sucker for any Chicago kid being on the roster. Javon Freeman Liberty deserves a shot on that last two-way contract if we don't pick up Javonte Green. First of all, Javonte Green's too good for a two-way contract. As far as Javon Freeman Liberty, I know he got picked up by the Raptors for like an end-of-season contract, right?
I remember that.
I don't know if he's still with them or do you know?
I believe he got waived, actually. I'm going to look that up. Right now.
He ends up on the G League. Something else.
Real quick, to quote Ayo directly one more time from Forbes, talking about honoring his friend Darius Brown, who he lost to gun violence. He's saying, I started this event 3 years ago to honor his legacy and create safe places for kids in the city of Chicago to play freely. Every child deserves to have a safe space where they can just be a kid and enjoy the fun that comes with that. It's such a simple thing to state, but it is so true. And the honoring his friend Darius's legacy, not only by doing this community outreach, but we heard last week that with DeMar's departure, Ayo is officially switching to number 11 on his Bulls jersey. Yeah. Number he wore at Illini. Why did he wear that jersey? To honor his friend Darius Brown.
Yeah.
So
Morgan Park.
Much respect to Ayo for that. Any JFL?
He had been waived.
He had been waived. Hey, all right. Javon Freeman Liberty's out there.
He's out there.
Hey, also, we have two. Ayo's here. Javon Carter's here. Oh, wait, we have three. Modest Buzelis. Also kind of,
DJ Stewart.
Suburbs. What?
DJ Stewart.
DJ Stewart.
G League. He's there. Oh, yeah. We building over here. Modest counts, baby. Let's see his game.
Just stay away from Iowa. That's all I ask. What's Tim Floyd up to? You want a coaching gig? Okay, still plenty more ahead to get to on CHGO Bulls today. We are going to dive into the ESPN Plus anonymous exec survey that did not paint the Bulls in the most positive light. That's up next. But first, we got to shout out our friends at Family Farms. And not only Family Farms, who are here in the building, CHGO Sports Studios today, sharing some of their delicious eats. They are also doing so with their friends at Cajun Nation from all the way down in Lafayette, Louisiana. Flew up to Chicago earlier today to come do a fun collab, a delicious collab out on our Family Farms balcony right here. At CHGO headquarters. Shout out to Zoe and Troy from Cajun Nation. Had a fun time chatting with them, talking old school NBA back in the day. And man, they made some delicious eats out there with our friends at Family Farms.
Office smells spectacular.
Oh my God. Get up here. Family Farms' culinary journey is woven with passion, dedication, and a commitment to crafting the finest bacon wrapped chicken. A timeless delicacy that has tantalized taste buds since 1974. And the tradition continues because now you can find Family Farms bacon wrapped chicken even easier. You can look for it in the meat department at your local Woodman's, Mariano's, and Burcott's. Maybe you're craving a taste of home without leaving yours. Well, then check out baconwrappedchicken.com, their website, or click on the link to get to their Amazon store, which also includes the legendary Rocky Rococo's Italian sausage. And to find out when their new amazing Cajun Nation flavors will become available with that authentic Louisiana bite. Our kitchen smells so freaking good right now.
It's so good. It's so good.
Experience the flavor that's become a family favorite for generations. Visit your nearest Woodman's, Mariano's, Burcott's, or find them on Amazon. BaconWrappedChicken.com.
Say it again, man.
Bacon Wrapped Chicken.
That was for him.
It's a real website. And it was not created, and the domain name was not owned by Matt Peck. It's wild. It's honestly wild.
It wasn't a goof. It's a real. Type it in to your search bar.
Type it in. It's a thing.
BaconWrappedChicken.com.
I like how Matt's been getting blamed by a lot of stuff.
It's not blame. It's
like you associate with him a lot. Like,
it's association, yeah.
But I know one thing, Matt, we'll take the blame for.
What's that?
It's having a frosty cold Coors Light, baby.
Put that blame on me.
Right there in his face. Between work, social media, and the choices life throws our way, it's no wonder we're more worked up. Coors Light celebrates rising above and choosing a chill mindset.
Rise above it.
Trying to turn that rained out barbecue into the will to go Gottlieb and now Matt Peck 48th annual karaoke house party with those dulcet tones. Or after a tough loss, settle scores with an ice cold peace offering. Make the choice to choose chill, then reach for a cold Coors Light. It is mountain cold refreshment because when those mountains turn blue, oh yes, you know what to do. It's as cold as a haze. Cold lager, cold filter, cold package for a smoother finish. So go ahead and embrace that chill, y'all. That mountain cold refreshment, crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Hurricanes. Make the most out of those times to choose chill. Choose Coors Light. Get it delivered straight to your door via Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/CHGO Basketball. CHGO Basketball. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company. Go then. Radio. Hey, shout out to these seasonings also. Look, no sugars, no carbs, no cholesterol, no fat. Just all taste up in the here, y'all. It's all taste up in the here.
I want to take that bottle of hot sauce and just lather a bacon wrapped chicken.
Slap.
Can we cancel the rest of the show? I want to go eat.
Almost time, man. Almost. You can do it. Power through, but it'll be here. Power through.
Before we dive into these NBA Exec Anonymous survey results that ESPN dropped on ESPN Plus earlier today or yesterday, real quick, DB in the comments said, what do the CHGO Bulls crew think of the upcoming Bears team? Super Bowl, baby.
All day. Every day. Super Bowl. Number one.
They had the trailer for Hard Knocks.
Oh, I lost it.
I got so excited.
Yes, I lost it.
Splicing in old footage.
Oh, it wasn't fair. It wasn't fair.
85 Bears just straight up assassinating Lions quarterbacks and Packers quarterbacks.
Yes.
Papa Bear Hallis.
More. Ooh. Put it in my veins.
Also, just like, I don't know if you guys, I didn't really watch. I just saw a bunch of clips of the Giants offseason one. You know how they did like the Hard Knocks just for
yeah. I saw some of it.
The amount of access that they gave in that, where it's like literally the GM is like talking with other GMs at the combine about how much he likes a certain guy, or like trades coming up, or like giving you trades that didn't happen. Like, that's stuff that we as NBA fans clamor for online constantly. At least I know I do. And so to actually get that from the horse's mouth was awesome, and I cannot wait, and I hope that they have more of that in the Bears one, and then also like they should do that for the NBA. It would be so cool.
They should do that
kind of
for the
access
NBA.
is just like unbelievably awesome to watch, and Yeah, I just got
so basically Go has FOMO and wishes that was a thing that existed and that the Bulls were
Hell yeah.
I mean, well, okay.
Tell me
I feel like we made solid progress, and by we I mean, of course, just you. With the with the private sit down with the Bulls Brain Trust out in Vegas when we were out there for Summer League. Got a lot of inside scoops, got a lot of intel and some great conversation with AK and Eversley. Now, so the next stepping stone beyond that is clearly just making an NBA version of Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
And go getting in that door.
Makes sense to me.
They can't do it with Braggs and the Bears. No. I hope that he is nowhere near that.
I hope he's on it because he's going to have a CHGO
they will
shirt.
Be on that.
he has to be on it. And I won't go there because the quaff needs to be something that the world sees.
This is true.
It has to happen, dog. Anything with CHGO, I'm with it.
Sports are like it's just like it's a soap opera, and you're just addicted to it. You can't get enough of it, and that kind of information, that kind of intel, that kind of just like insider stuff.
Yeah,
it just is impossible to get.
Yeah,
outside of that, and it's just so cool to actually see it.
You're
happen.
right.
Yeah.
Seeing Roma Doomsday and Caleb Williams, interview with the Giants, and just it made me love Caleb Williams even more.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God, this dude is brilliant. Listen to him talk football and look at the Giants coach falling in love with him while he's talking football. But you can't have him. He belongs to us. Oh, start the season. Oh, Bears. Thursday preseason. I'm still jacked, Joey.
No one's playing in the hall, but still,
I'm gonna be watching it. Joey, you jacked? Juiced. Don't be juiced.
Jack to the tits. I mean, September 8th, week 1.
Ooh.
Bears at home.
Ooh.
Titans.
Oh.
That's only 5 Sundays away. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Way to break that down.
Hey, but speaking of insider access and hearing from GMs and the inner workings, Summer League is when you get a little bit of that, at least for NBA media, because all the scouts, all the execs, everybody descends upon Vegas to watch the Summer League teams play, and the draft is over. That stress is behind you. Most free agency stuff has been settled. Players are on new contracts. Trades have been made and finalized. Everybody who works in the NBA front office is feeling all like, okay, there's a load off and I'm feeling chatty. Let's talk. So capitalizing on that,
a frosty cold
ESPN for a number of years now has been doing these anonymous executive surveys. Sometimes they do them in season, and a lot of times they do them in the offseason out in Vegas.
Yeah.
ESPN had the chance to chat with 18 NBA coaches, scouts, and execs to get their opinions on the most impactful summer moves and what they mean for the 24-25 season. The little intro was written up by Tim Bontemps of ESPN. And there are a few categories where the Bulls make some appearances. They do not make an appearance in the best offseason category.
They do not.
So 18 people were polled, and of those, the Sixers received the most votes for having the best offseason in the NBA with 8. The Knicks came in second with 5. OKC Thunder and their new defensive ace, Alex Caruso, with 3 votes, and the Celtics, defending NBA champions, got 2. Any surprises there for you guys? Because I think most everybody agreed. You get the biggest name star in Paul George if you're the Sixers. You also make some really solid fringe rotation additions, bench depth people, including the recently departed from the Bulls, Andre Drummond. I think this list of the best off seasons makes pretty cut and dry to me.
It's just interesting to look at it in the sense that, like, when you look at the Sixers, Daryl Morey basically made a bet last year when he couldn't trade James Harden for anything more than picks, that he was going to basically waste a year of Joel Embiid's prime and take a bet on free agency in a year where there was one prime free agent. And he happened to get that guy. And as a result of that, he was able to bring in Caleb Martin and, bring back Kelly Oubre and fill out the rest of the roster with a bunch of guys who I won't be able to name off the top of my head. But like that bet just worked for him, and it clicked, and it made everything else work really well. Whereas like if Paul George had just gotten that 4th year from the Clippers, all of a sudden the Sixers don't get probably Caleb Martin.
Sure.
They look like a disaster. They've wasted their opportunity to build something around Embiid because you have to give Maxey that contract. You can't take advantage of his low cap hold. So I obviously love what the Sixers did. They completely turned themselves into contenders this summer, but it's just interesting to think about it in terms of like how perfectly it had to go in order for that to happen.
Yeah.
The Knicks, obviously, I think Mikal Bridges is a very good player. I think they way overpaid to get him.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably the only way they were going to get him. But it's interesting that like for example, if a team, and part of it is context too, right? Like they just went to the conference semifinals. Sure. They probably could have gone to the conference finals had they stayed healthy. You bring in, more guys and you get better. Brunson is who he is. But like, let's say like it was the Sixers who traded for Mikal Bridges 5 picks and they did that instead of Paul George. Like, do they get the same grade for that? Or is it the fact that like the Knicks are such a feel-good story right now that makes this trade look better for them when really 5 picks is more than, that's more than the Nets got for KD. They got more for Mikal Bridges than they got for KD.
I agree. They totally overpaid to get Bridges in that trade, and maybe something that kind of cancels that out, even though it's overpaying in picks versus overpaying monetarily speaking. They got Jalen Brunson wrapped up on a new contract that is $100 and something million of a discount compared to what he was owed, or at least able to be owed.
It's a little bit off because of it's like how early he got the extension.
Right.
So had he waited, he could have gotten more, but it's not like he would have gotten zero money if he didn't do this right now. So that is a little bit of a misinterpreted number, but at the same time, they gave OG Anunoby a $215 million contract. Yeah. That is, honestly, I think that is like going to end up being one of the worst contracts in the league. Not because OG's a bad player, but you look at Zach LaVine making the same amount of money and you can't move him. Mm-hmm. Now you have a role player who gets hurt all the time. It's so much of it is just perception. So for them to even be like in the mix, I get it. They did some really good stuff. They also signed OG, which prevented them from retaining Hartenstein, who was their best center last year. Mm-hmm. Like, why didn't OKC get more votes for this? They didn't risk anything. They just like accumulated really good stuff. They sold low on Giddey and got an asset at the peak of its value. Like they did a great job there. They bring in Hartenstein and they're building organically. They still have all their picks. They still have access to every like big swing that you can take because of the rest of what they have going on. The Celtics, I think like, for them to just like win the championship and then run it back and bring everybody back and lock everybody in, show that financial commitment. That's a really good one to me. But yeah, I don't know. I think like the Knicks, I think is a little bit more controversial than a clear number 2 here, which is what they were voted.
Yeah, I agree with you on Philly. But I will say the risk on Philly is health. Because you did sign the biggest free agent, but you also signed a guy who just always gets injured. And it's scary putting them in the situation with another star that's always usually injured. So a second-round exit is not off the table, you know what I mean, because of that. And that's the risk you take. But if you're trying to win, you take these risks. You still make that move with Paul George. I completely get it. With the Knicks, I don't want to defend the Knicks. Why are you making me do this?
I'm not saying that. No one's making
it. Because I see what they
Screw
did.
The Knicks. To hell with the Knicks.
They're off-season. With the Knicks.
Their off-season sucks.
Screw the Knicks. But I can't lie.
I don't even think that's true.
I can't tell that lie.
They probably get like a B or B minus and not like an A or an A plus.
Yeah.
Which is what I think they're probably being graded on.
And I think you made a good point as it's still a feel-good story for people. You know, it's basically your college teammates are back together in New York.
Yeah.
Like, I get that. Like, you're right. I think that's a part of it too. But it's the fact of who they got and looking at who the Knicks are and how good they were, especially in that regular season. Again, they were a 2 seed. They broke down the playoffs. So getting a player like Mikal Bridges, who ain't missed a game since high school, and then so you're answering that question, increasing your depth as far as wing help and defensive help by continuing to get OG Anunoby, by getting Precious Achiuwa back in there. Like, I really think that's a nice move for them. So doing those kind of things, and then you saw what they did in the draft. You know what I mean? I thought they really were one of the best in the draft at what they did as far as what they traded away and what they got back, because they gave up all those picks, but they also got back a ton of picks as well when they did it in the draft. So I see that, and I can't logically, it's hard for me to go against the logic in my brain. It sometimes trumps the emotion that I have. So I'm only speaking to the logic right now. I get what the Knicks did. I don't think it's that big of a travesty. Or like, oh man, I forget the words you use for it. But for me, I get it and I see it, and they're trying to win. And when you make moves in terms of winning and putting that out there, I'm always for it. Oh snap, we got a break. Sorry. Yes, I'll be back.
Fish, I assume about the Knicks in the comments saying they're still a really good team. Screw the Knicks.
Screw the Knicks.
I mean, they had a great season.
To hell with the Knicks.
But always and forever.
I don't care about the Knicks.
I was chatting with Cajun Nation's my buddy Troy out there about like those stupid Anthony Mason, Charles Oakley fights. Yeah. Xavier McDaniel, John Starks.
Cajun Nation.
Screw him.
Cajun Nation.
Check out Cajun Nation.
Cajun Nation.
All right. So after the quick break, plenty more on these executive anonymous surveys, including worst offseason. Hint: the Bulls are high on the list. That's coming up next.
Take your time, Joe. Oh! What time is it, Joey?
Game time!
Game time is authorized ticket marketplace, y'all, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices for the Game Time app usually go down the closer you get to game time, ladies and gents, because they have those killer last-minute deals, the all-in prices, the views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying those tickets. Of course, they got those last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater events nearest you. You can save even more with the flash deals, the in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. And with the zone deals, you can save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time do the selecting. And of course, the views from your seat, a Matt Peck and Big Dave favorite, and also on the low, a Will Go Gottlieb favorite. But we need to know where we sitting, where can we stretch out at, and who's going to be in front of us or behind us. Seat views. That's how you do that. Shout out to Game Time for that thing. So take that guesswork out of buying those tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CHGO. Get yourself $20 off your first purchase.
There's a black.
That's CHGO. Get yourself $20 off your first purchase.
There's a black.
Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, always price guarantee. Because Matt Pack, what time is that? You know?
Oh my God. Hey, now's a great time if you've been thinking about it and haven't pulled the trigger. Sign up to become a CHGO diehard.
Do it.
You know about all the wonderful perks because we have told you about them for 2.5 years now. You get the best of the best when it comes to the reporting, articles, write-ups, inside access and info from our credentialed reporters here at CHGO, including our very own Will Go Gottlieb. Mm-hmm. A lot of the stuff he was doing for the draft, a lot of the stuff he was writing about up in Summer League Vegas action was for diehards only. Flex. Same thing going on with Bears training camp right now. Hogs, Bears things. You're getting fresh Bears intel in your inbox every morning if you are a diehard. You need it.
Fresh.
We're geeking out about the Bears.
Geeking out, man.
You need the Hogs, Bears things.
Yes, you do.
That is for diehards. Of course, also access to that diehards only Discord hangout, one channel for each of your favorite Chicago teams. There's even some wrestling action going on in the Discord now. For you wrestling fans.
Saturday.
And then, of course, you get a free shirt plus your fun little gift package when you sign up to become a diehard. Any shirt in that CHGO merch locker. On top of that, 20% off every single time you shop. We've got hats, we've got hoodies, we've got T-shirts, we've got glassware. What more could you possibly want? Rocking this one today, retro. And then, speaking of discounts, 20% off when we have our fun ticketed events of all kinds. And we have a lot coming up down the pipeline because we've got, let's see, we've got Bears London trip. Today is the last day to get tickets to go with our CHGO Bears crew for the London game against the Jags. You can get 20% off that trip.
Get it.
If you can't make it all the way across the pond, we are also doing a CHGO Bears trip to Arizona when they play the Cardinals November 3rd.
We got to go.
Diehards get discounts to that fun trip. Maybe you want to just stick around Chicago. White Sox have a takeover on the south side when they're playing the Cubs on August 8th. Diehards get discounts to that. And then, of course, our second annual CHGO Kickoff Classic at Cog Hill, August 23rd, coming up later this summer. Discounts to that as well. A solo, a twosome, a foursome. Diehards get discounts on discounts on discounts.
Woozy wazzy.
What are you waiting for? Sign up today. Join the Coolest Kids Club and some of its newest members this week thus far. Our new diehard shout out to Marco, Philip, Jose, Daniel, John, Michael, Andre, and Alvaro. Boom.
That's right. Take it over.
Take it over. Be a diehard.
Yes.
What you waiting for?
I don't know.
Get your game face on.
Do it.
Okay. Who had the worst offseason in the NBA? Good news, guys. According to a poll of 18 anonymous coaches, executives, and scouts at Summer League, it wasn't the Bulls.
Oh, thank God.
By one vote.
Oh.
People said the Nuggets, who lost KCP, among other things, had the worst offseason after they failed to defend their title from 2023. They got 6 votes. And then, right on their heels, our beloved Bulls. Only the Bulls.
Yeah,
with 5 votes for the worst offseason across the NBA. Bontemps adding a note that Chicago, after trading Caruso and DeRozan and not getting a first-round pick in either deal, and watching the Spurs get the best asset, that 2031 pick swap from the Kings in that sign-in trade for DeRozan. Clippers got 4 votes for worst offseason. They see Paul George walk in free agency. Lakers, Knicks, and Pistons each received 1 vote for worst offseason. Do we think it is valid? Do we think it is fair? Do we think it is accurate that the Bulls were nearly there, tied for first most votes in worst offseason across 30 NBA teams?
So I definitely think the Nuggets had the worst offseason. I think that was a clear number one. You lose a starter for nothing. You trade 3 second-round picks in order to dump Reggie Jackson to replace him with Dario Saric, and then you get Russell Westbrook off a buyout market. Like, they could have just traded for Russell Westbrook one of those seconds, kept 2 of them. I don't know. I just feel like the opportunity cost for what they did. And then obviously some of it's out of their hands too, right? Like, you move up in the draft for De'Ron Holmes. He gets hurt in the first Summer League game. That just sucks.
That sucks.
The Clippers lost Paul George for nothing. Like, why are people not more frustrated about that? And it wasn't because, like, he had no interest in coming back. He wanted to come back. They just wouldn't give him a 4th year. And they wouldn't give him a 4th year because of the second apron concerns. But, like, that wasn't going to be, there was so many ways out of that before they got to the point where it was going to be damaging to them. So you're heading into a new thing. You just re-signed Kawhi. You have Paul George on the table. All you need to do is give him a 4th year, and he'll do it. And you just don't do it. And then you replace him with Derrick Jones Jr. I don't know. Like, to me, that was really bad. I think there's an argument for them over the Nuggets. And, like, okay, let's talk about the Bulls here.
Get into it.
I've made my stance about the Bulls offseason pretty clear, right? Like, I don't love the Giddey trade. I don't hate it as much as some people. The part about it that, like, irks me more than anything was the missed opportunity to take on picks or to prioritize picks. Yes. If they had not signed Jalen Smith, they could have taken back Harrison Barnes and gotten a first for it. If they had, attached Caruso to Levine, maybe they're out of the woods there, and you, like, are able to move forward in earnest without having, like, this dead weight on your cap sheet. So I think there were some missed opportunities, but at the end of the day, they picked a direction which was the right one. They got younger. They added more foundational pieces, whether they have the piece or not. I think it's pretty clear that's the case. The answer to that is no, and I think that's a problem. But I think they hit for where they were in the draft, and I think they picked the right direction. I don't love the specifics and the details, and in some of those, it's like more opportunity cost that they missed and less like I actively hate a specific thing that they did. But overall, like, it was not a great offseason. I don't think it was like one of the worst ones because they didn't do anything that was like actively damaging to their future. Now, if they sign Giddey to a contract that's like $25 million a year for 5 years, I think that would be actively damaging to their future. So that is going to impact the grade here. We don't know what that's going to look like. But to me, it's like they had a bad offseason in the sense that it didn't go exactly the way that I would have wanted. But in general, as I said, when all the trades went down, and I've said time and time again since, like, I am glad that they picked a direction that is prioritizing the future. And I think they did that. Again, the details, the specifics leave a lot to be desired. But to me, like, I just don't think they're in the running for worst offseason because at the end of the day, what were we all calling for last year? For them to move on and to get younger. And they did both of those things. Or
like cyanide pills. That would have been fine too.
Go ahead, man.
No, I mean, I think it's warranted that the Bulls are high on this list. Somebody in the comments, Tyson, saying, how did the Lakers not have the worst offseason? Everyone that LeGM, I assume you mean LeBron, wanted said, no thanks. I was a little bit surprised. I mean, they did receive 1 vote for worst offseason, but, like, the Lakers didn't do anything.
They were terrible.
And they are.
And, like, I talked about the opportunity cost with some of the stuff the Bulls did. Like, the opportunity cost for them is you've got a 39-year-old best player who just signed a, 2-year deal? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, like, the opportunity cost is giving up on championship equity today by not doing anything.
Exactly.
I think a lot of teams are just like clutching their pearls a little bit too much, not willing to make moves, not willing to take on bad salary, not willing to actually go all in, when the whole narrative about the NBA is like there's parity in the league now. This is your time to go all in. So I think in general, teams were a little bit too conservative for me this summer. I would have liked to see a little bit more boldness, a little bit more action, a little bit more willingness to be the team that spends. Like, again, I don't think the Suns had like the best offseason in the world. I don't love the approach that they've taken, but you have to give them points for being aggressive, right? And a lot of these teams are just like sitting back, and I feel like in some cases, like the Lakers, they're wasting a year.
Agreed. Definitely wasting a year.
Yeah, I mean, the Bulls had a bad offseason.
I'm not arguing that.
They had a bad offseason. I think there was one quote from an anonymous Eastern Conference scout about the Giddey Caruso trade specifically, saying getting him without giving up a pick is crazy, referring to Alex Caruso. And the way Bontemps kind of framed it when touching on the Bulls finishing second most votes and worst offseason across the league was you help orchestrate a sign and trade for the team that wants DeMar DeRozan.
Mm-hmm.
You trade Alex Caruso, 2-time rating all defensive team selection on a very friendly contract next season.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get 0 picks out of that?
0.
So
okay, second round.
They chose 0 picks though.
But
I'm not reporting this. There had to have been offers for Caruso that would have included picks.
It was reported.
They elected
Warriors
not
for
to do
certain were at least one team offering.
I don't know that about this summer. So I think it's totally fair and important to critique the Bulls for missed opportunities of the past. But if you look at just what was available to them now, which is a separate thing, I don't know that the Warriors had picks on the table for Caruso this summer. But we knew that maybe the Kings did, and I'm sure there were other teams that would have been involved. I think acting a week before the draft on Caruso was a huge mistake. They could have gotten that done on draft night. They could have gotten it done for less. They could have put more pressure. They just didn't negotiate and leverage their power the way that they should have.
Yeah.
And I think that was a problem. But
correct.
I think it doesn't surprise me that they didn't get picks because they weren't looking for picks. And so I think you do have to factor that into the calculus at some point. It's a difference in what we would have done. It's not necessarily like, a failure on their part. They got what they thought was fair value for Caruso. I don't agree with it, but that's what they tried to do, and it just didn't include picks.
Juan in the comments saying, gave away Caruso, lost Drummond for nothing, making a mess of the Levine situation, didn't get any 3-point shooters. Yeah. They had a bad offseason. And that's another one where it's like, okay, we know from multiple different outlets that reported it, like the Sixers offered the Bulls stuff for Drummond at the deadline. Multiple second-round picks. That's something. That's something that you can include in future trades. That's something you can use to try and build up this youth movement that you're supposedly embarking on this season. Missed opportunities at every turn.
Missed opportunities, and the reason I think they missed some opportunities is because they have a flawed approach. They're choosing to go for the young player instead of draft picks route. I think that's a flawed approach. They're choosing to go for guys that are, in the league already over building for the future and fully committing to a rebuild. I think that's the wrong approach. Yeah. So again, I'm not saying they had a good offseason. I just think they made moves to put themselves in what they think was a better position for the future. And that's what we wanted this whole time. So to me, that's a much different scenario than the Clippers, who actively hurt their future and their present, than a situation that the Lakers put themselves in where they actively hurt themselves in the present and the future. I think it's like two different things. It's like disagreeing with the approach and then also actively hurting yourself. And I think the Bulls did actively hurt themselves in some ways, but I don't think that was quite as bad as what the Lakers and the Clippers did. Again, the caveat here being, if Giddey signs a massive deal that now becomes an anchor to this cap sheet and is now a pillar of your franchise for the next 5 years on a contract that he is not worth, that completely changes the outlook that I'm having right now. Then you're talking about more just malpractice, complete, misunderstanding of what the goal is. And that hasn't happened yet. I'm not saying it will. I'm not saying it won't. But, like, that does factor into the equation. So it's just hard to make the full analysis at this point without that information.
I would say the way I look at worse, Will, is when I look at what you did, I say, what the hell were you thinking? That's kind of how I look at it. And I said that a lot with the Bulls.
Yeah.
And I said that a lot with the Lakers, too, because they did nothing. And I still don't get that. I don't know an era or a time where the Lakers just don't do anything. You know, this is the Lakers. They always get somebody, or they're trying to get somebody. They sit on their hands and they sign LeBron's son. You know, like, they didn't do anything. They should be number 2 for me. I have them up there. But, dude, the Bulls were ass. Like, these are not great moves. And you're right. Because I'm not dissing the players at all. And you're right. How we would have done it is different. And how people would have done it is different. You're right. They didn't prioritize it. That doesn't make it great or even a good decision to not prioritize getting draft picks on your team. Even if you don't care about them, you get them back to try to put them in something to package them up like it's bacon wrapped chicken.
You have to play the game.
you put that out and use that. Game. You're right. You have to play the game.
To exist within the ecosystem.
And they didn't play the game. They operated somewhere else. Like you were kind of fooling somebody or getting over on somebody, but at the same time doing what you wanted to do. You know, I get it. It's what you want to do. It's your job. I get that. But to not maximize certain situations. And again, I'm not there. I don't know. But I just know when I look at certain things and when everybody is looking at it and it's like, the hell are the Bulls doing? I heard that a lot. You know what I mean? Like from podcasts, from pundits, from me, a lot. All I kept hearing, what the hell they do? How they don't get anything for that? Nobody could really understand that aspect, and it still can't probably be explained because it's not a good ass decision. It's a dumb ass thing to do. I have no problem with Giddey. I think you and I are on the same page with that because people think that you hate Giddey or we hate Giddey. We don't have a problem with Giddey. Like, I don't.
I have some problems with him, but
I know, but not like to that level that I be hearing people like this. Don't work this, that. It ain't that shit. That dude can play. I want to see what he can do. I have no problem with Giddey. It's that you had an opportunity to get things with him and you didn't take any kind of advantage of it. Everything is from a position of weakness, even when you have the strength.
Self-imposed weakness.
Yes,
in a lot of cases.
You're stabbing yourself. They're giving you the knife and they're going like this, and you're like, let me try it out on me first. Let me stab myself first to see if this knife works. Oh, it does work. Okay, now I'm dead because I just stabbed myself to death. I just didn't understand everything they did, and that's what made it up there in the top 3 for me because it was a lot of, what the hell are y'all doing, man?
Yeah, I think it was like, I guess my point is, I recognize that this was not a great offseason. I think it's probably in like the second tier of bad, not the first tier of bad. Yes. I think that's the way I'll put it.
Tiers of bad.
The other thing is, like, I think the Bulls would probably say that, like, specifically with the Giddey for Caruso trade, like, they got what they wanted and the Thunder got what they wanted. The problem is what the Bulls wanted was, like, not right. They shouldn't have wanted that. They should have wanted something else. And I think that's where you start to make the criticisms. I don't think that, like, they went into this with, like, part of their approach was right. They wanted to get younger. They wanted to get upside. And I get that they don't want to go through a multi-year rebuilding process. Yeah. I understand that. I'm not saying that's what I would have done because it's not, but I understand where you're coming from with that.
I do.
I think there were other problems with it, including what you have to pay him, not being able to fully move on from some of the other players on your roster that are now holding you back. So I think even if you give them the grace of, like, they tried to do it their way, I still think some of the things were wrong and they deserve criticism for that. At the same time, I don't think you could put it in the same category as these teams that were, like, actively detrimental or that, like, had these just, like, clear cash, moves that were completely derived from trying to save money. And those are teams that I grade much more harshly.
Agreed. This is the last thing I'll say about it because this is how I think of it. If you gave a child $100 at the age of 6, they're going to the store and they're going to live out some dreams. You know what I'm saying? In that store. They got what they wanted, but that was to make it the right damn thing. You know what I'm saying? They got exactly what they wanted. Yes, I wanted all this ice cream. I wanted all this, that. You could have done much more with that.
Open up that Roth IRA, you know what I'm saying? Go to moneytalks.substack.com.
Shout out Darnell Mayberry. It's something you would do differently, like probably as an adult. You know what I mean? Or maybe not. Maybe I'll get the 100 and go to the store. That's why I don't run a team. Ice cream out of control. Joey, give me your favorite ice cream.
Favorite?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like it depends on the occasion, the place. I don't have a number one.
Man, favorite ice cream.
If it's pie a la mode, then just sweet vanilla. But if I'm just like digging into a pint,
If it's pie a la mode, that's like such a specific.
right? Because that's when I usually like to eat ice cream is with a side of pie and ice cream.
He
But
can palate a fruit or
I used to have
vegetable
a
with ice
real problem
or
with
bacon
just
on
taking
it.
down entire pints of Ben and Jerry's in
Ben
one
and
sitting.
Jerry's half baked. There we go.
Yep, that was what I was about to say. Ben and Jerry's half baked.
One thing on the Bulls off
Can I hear
season.
goes?
Anything
sorry.
with chocolate and peanut butter in it.
There you go. Maybe Americone Dream.
Cherry vanilla for
I think
me.
that is peanut butter. Jerry Garcia.
Jerry Garcia.
I just think the Bulls almost, in a way, probably outside the Giddey trade, but did as well as they almost could. I feel like they resigned themselves to having a shitty offseason based on the moves they made during the season. Like, refusal to trade Caruso
Yeah,
for
correct.
and
There was
maximize
no
his
way
value.
they were going to come
refusal
out of
to
this
trade
on top.
Drummond, refusal to trade DeRozan. Like, what could they have done? There is a couple things. I wish they had prioritized this back instead of this, specifically with Caruso. But otherwise, I'm just like, hey, I actually felt like they did what they should have done in a lot of cases, and it still is a shitty offseason because they were so inept and the management of their assets for, honestly, this entire season prior and honestly beyond that, the summer as well. Like
in the
re-signing
same way-
Vooch, the entire thing. They've taken away all of their flexibility, and so they backed themselves so far into the corner that I guess maybe I'm not being more harsh because this was the only possible outcome for them, in my opinion, and has been.
I mean, yeah, unless you're talking about hindsight, because the further back you go, when any Bulls fan with half a brain watching NBA basketball knew this team wasn't it, this core wasn't it, they had a lot more options.
And they even admitted that.
yeah.
So, yeah,
Finally.
I mean, to me, it's like
Jerks.
in the way that we were grading or that I was saying that like the Knicks were being graded based on the season that they had last year. I think that's very much true for the Bulls. Whereas if you look at it in a vacuum of this summer, and I'm not saying that's like the only way to look at it, I think that's a flawed approach, but it is an approach. And I think when you do look at it that way, it's a little bit better. Not great, obviously. I've made that very clear.
Hopefully Matis helps. I think
That's the
that'll
other thing.
help
Is like, do you give them credit for drafting Matis over somebody else at 13? I mean, the guys that went directly after Matis all would have been really good. Topic at 12, Devin Carter at 13, Bub Carrington, who was amazing in Summer League, at 14, and then Khalil Ware at 15.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't have really gone wrong there, but obviously getting a guy who was projected to be number one at this time last year, like that's a pretty good pick.
Few comments, then we got to get back on track with a couple more of those survey questions. Okay. Shout out to our guy Drew is in the comments who said, Bulls need to hire a new decorator coming in here quick because damn. Shout out MIB. Juan Miller saying, I'm going to be hopeful. When we got DeRozan, we were told it was the worst offseason. Well, let's see. Let's hope something clicks. That is true. And then, remember the ha-ha-has we had as Bulls fans through the first two-thirds of that season?
Yeah.
Like, everybody trashed the DeRozan signing. Yeah. Well, it turns out that DeRozan still gave the Bulls 3 incredibly efficient seasons.
Very much so.
But basically everything else fell apart after that first half of a season. So the I told you so's became the, oh, well, I look stupids.
Not at all. Zoe got hurt. I don't take that.
Okay. Reagan saying, you don't have to pay draft picks until you use them. They are a free asset. Insane to devalue them. AK ain't even playing checkers at a chess table. Dude's trying to play tic-tac-toe. Or
shoots and
shoots. Or don't wake daddy. Shout out John Sabine. Okay, so let's continue twisting the knife. They also asked about the best and worst specific moves, not just overall off seasons, in this anonymous survey for ESPN Plus. Best move of the season went to the Sixers landing PG 13. That received the most votes, but right behind that was Alex Caruso going to the Thunder in second place as the second best move a team made this offseason with 5 votes to Sixers 6 for getting PG. I mean, when you look beneath that, Brunson's contract for the Knicks gets a few votes. KCP signing with Orlando. Dillingham drafted by the Wolves gets a vote, along with Bridges traded by the Brooklyn Nets getting a vote. So some praise for the Nets side of that trade.
I don't get that one at all. I mean, I thought that was probably the best move of the summer by any team, was to trade Mikal Bridges when at his peak. I mean, what more could you ask? You got 5 picks and a swap. That's more than you got for KD. So
it is strange that only got 1 vote.
Not only that, you set yourself up by going out and getting your picks back from Houston so that you can have the summer basically that we've been advocating the Bulls to have, which is a full teardown with loading up on draft picks. To me, that was great. I also don't hate the Timberwolves summer. I know it was hard with just the way that they kind of have their roster constructed. They've got to figure out if they're going to be able to be a big spender like this or if they're going to have to move cap. But like, to me, a swap in 2031 for Rob Dillingham, who's going to be the point guard of the future, who's going to be able to get mentored by Mike Conley and Anthony Edwards, a guy who I thought was going to be a top 10 pick. And by the way, in an ecosystem that completely neutralizes against his flaws, which were really glaring. You have Rudy Gobert. You have the best defense in the league. You have switchable wing defensive players. You have probably the second best rim protector in the league now after Wembanyama. So I think he's going to be great there. I don't think he's going to play a ton this year, but like you let him cook off the bench, and then next year after that, you let him take over as the starting point guard of the future next to Ant, Jaden McDaniels, and you go from there. I thought that was a really good move for them. Obviously, it comes at a cost. You move a pick down the line, but I don't know. I like that move.
So those were the best moves receiving the most votes. Yay, Thunder. Good for you. You got Caruso.
Huzzah!
That didn't pour
By the
salt
way,
in the wounds.
in the same way that Giddey's next contract will factor into how we evaluate this deal.
Yeah.
So too will Caruso's.
That's true.
He is extension eligible. Like,
how much are they going to pay him?
He's going to be
on the wrong side of 30
in his mid 30, which was why I wrote this like 2 days before the trade happened. Like they needed to make a decision on this because it was coming up fast. And like, again, you credit the Bulls for getting ahead of that situation.
Yes.
Where if they had waited another year, they would have been in the same position that they were in with DeRozan, where all you're getting is a pair of second-round picks. So I'm glad that they moved him when they did, but Caruso's next contract, I think, also should be factored into that deal if we're going to do that with
He's going to get a check.
Oh, yeah.
As he well deserves.
Super well deserved.
All right, guys, you ready for it? The worst specific moves of the NBA offseason, according to executives, scouts, and coaches.
Details.
Polled at Summer League. The Bulls make 2 different appearances on this list. Chicago's part in the DeMar sign and trade received 3 votes, tied for the most with Sacramento's part in the DeRozan trade. So the Spurs won a trade where DeMar switched teams, and neither of the teams he left or went to was the Spurs.
He's just picking on his guy. That's all that is, dog.
And Chicago getting highway robbed by OKC, and the Caruso for Josh Giddey trade also received a vote.
Just
hooray.
Just bad. Just not good.
What do you make of the fact that both sides of the DeMar sign trade got votes for worst move of the offseason?
I think that's overkill. I really do. I think they're picking on the Bulls at this point. The DeMar trade is a good trade, in my opinion.
For the Bulls?
I mean, you had to get them off your books, man. Like,
yes.
You had to get rid of DeMar. So whatever you knew going in, whatever you were getting back, is simply just what you were getting back. Like, I couldn't go in, give me some of this Cajun Nation. Give me you know what I mean? Give me a case of this right here. Couple cases of this for DeMar DeRozan.
Bag of chips.
You know what I mean? Then we're getting pricey. Some of
that's the asking price for Vooch?
Right, yeah, Vooch's chips. You know what I mean? But DeMar is dope. He's cold. He's amazing. Like, but they had to get off him. And they would put themselves in their position, as you continue to say, Will. So, for me, it was the only move to make for them. Like, it's hard for me to be like, this is the worst shit ever. But
I think it was a pretty short-sighted. Well, I don't want to say short-sighted. I think that some of the same criticisms that we had about signing DeRozan in 2021 or 2022, whenever it was, you can say that about the Kings too. There was no competing market for him above the not the mid-level exception, the full mid-level at 12.8.
Sure.
We're talking about like the biannual exception. There was nobody who was going to offer him more than $4.5 million this year. And they signed him for what, 28? Which is the same that he got with the Bulls. They just didn't have to do that. And I know he wouldn't have gone there. So you do have to overpay to get the guy. But like, there was nobody in that same area code stratosphere. I mean, it was they were worlds apart. And that's why he didn't go to the Lakers or the Heat, where all he could have gotten was, the taxpayer mid-level, which is like 6 something, or the biannual, which is like 4.5. So to me, that was a massive overpay for no good reason. it puts them in a position where now they had to dump a bunch of salary. In order to do that, you've got to give up a pick. And I agree that like the Bulls one of the worst things that they did this summer was like prioritize like staying out of the tax basically so that they didn't get draft picks. I mean, the way that they have shown to prioritize draft picks is really concerning. You're going into a rebuild and you get no additional first round picks. Like, are you kidding? I think that's really disappointing. And so I get that from both sides where, the third party who has no part in the transaction of DeRozan going from one team to the other comes away with the pick. Yeah. Like, how do you let that happen?
How does that go?
Well, also taking on Barnes.
Sure, but like, okay, and this is the other thing is like, I think the Jalen Smith signing was really, really, really short-sighted. He may end up working out for them. He may not, but like, why would you sign a guy when you're trying to be bad, who's, yes, young and can shoot in theory and protect the rim in theory? It's a nice player to have. And it's not like a massive overpay. I don't think it's a terrible deal. Yeah. I just wouldn't have done it because it completely shows a lack of foresight about what your cap situation is. You have to be able to use that space to unload Zach or DeMar so that you can get a pick back. And they didn't do that. They prioritized 3 years of Jalen Smith making $8-9 million. Like, why? What is he going to be such a big part of the current or future part of the team that he was worth not getting a pick for? And I can say 100% no.
100%.
Okay, I got two answers for you, Goat. How and why could the Bulls be so short-sighted with the Jalen Smith signing?
Uh-oh.
What are you talking about? That's what they proved to be.
Who are you talking
to? Time and time again. Short-sighted. And you know what? Garpax, a.k.a. Eversley, don't matter. Bulls front office executives have always operated from a position of short-sightedness, and I feel like it's because they do what they think their bosses want. Ownership only cares about the short margin profitability of today and maybe tomorrow with this organization. It's always been the case. Short-sighted? Of course short-sighted. You shouldn't be surprised by a move that's short-sighted. And then also saying, why would they sign him if they're going to try to be bad? Well, listen to Mark Eversley. The words that he spoke that we talked about yesterday in the write-up from Jamal Collier of ESPN, saying, we don't care if we make the playoffs next year or we're a playing team next year. We just have a fun young group of guys with NBA experience that we're excited to go watch play and hopefully get better. Jalen Smith fits into that narrative because he's a young player with NBA experience. Who cares if they're bad? Who cares if they optimize their lottery odds at Cooper Flagg or another blue-chip prospect in the 25 draft class? We don't care about that. We care about seeing what happens with the young guys this season. Short-sighted. Duh. God,
Toss it, man.
It's August tomorrow. Oh,
I got it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Cajun Nation. That wasn't directed at you.
Hands, baby.
I should not be this angry at the Bulls on July 31st.
You literally walked in yesterday. Within 10 minutes, you was pissed the fuck off.
God, I'm so sick.
Within 10 minutes.
So sick of this organization. There's just another national poll. Bulls getting laughed at from every direction. Great job, guys. Did we figure out yet who said the nasty stuff about Zach LaVine while you're still trying and failing to trade him?
Oh, man.
What the heck are we doing here, Harry?
Oh, man.
We got to get out of this town, man.
Take some Cajun Nation with you when you go.
I need some Cajun Nation seasonings on a bacon wrapped chicken and another Coors Light.
Get you some. Well, guess what? You can do that now because we're done.
We are done. We are out of time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Hit the like button on your way out. If you watched on YouTube and you didn't hit the like button yet, helps us out a lot. Make sure you also subscribe to that CHGO Sports YouTube channel. Sign up today to become a diehard. Tons of fun events coming up back end of summer into fall that you can get discounts on. And that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the perks of you cool diehards out there. Yeah. Same time, same place tomorrow, 4 p.m. Central, back with a fresh episode. Until then, Will the Goat is at Will_Gottlieb. Big Day Bow, BAWL Sports. Joey Spathis, the one and only pound producer at Joey Spathis. I'm Bulls_Peck. We are CHGO_Bulls. Shout out to Jelly. Saw you in the comments. Good to see you. We'll talk to you tomorrow. See you right. Be good.
What up, fish?